Welcome everybody, Nicholas Natt hanging out here at Natt Fitness, and you are now watching Q&A live with myself, Nicholas Natt, and my co-host, one and only Mr. Wes Post. I'm excited. This is our first episode, and this show was designed to be able to ask questions. Anything that you guys have regarding life, fitness, health, sports, you name it, you ask it, and we will answer it. Again, as we mentioned, we have some great questions, but before we get into that, a lot of great stuff going on in sports. Wes is a pretty big soccer fan, so what happened?
Man, I don't know about you guys, and it's been a crazy World Cup. I'm a World Cup guy. We got Croatia coming through. They're going to be playing against England. I don't know if you're an English Premier League guy, but that means it's like watching all your favorite players on one field.
Okay, so here's my question, and you guys might have a similar question. Wes, you can ask this, because you have all the different teams in England, and like these people are rivals. So what is it like having these guys that you despise because they're the opposite team play for the same team international? Like, I mean, does everyone kind of sacrifice? Is it kind of a bittersweet? How does that work?
I think that you end up liking the country. I guess there's not a particular player that I hate. When you're competing for your country, you kind of just forget about the club stuff, and you just go in and I think that you just dedicate yourself to your country.
So what's funny about that is how different that varies from sports to sports. Okay, so if you guys don't know, I'm a big basketball fan. My dad was a professional basketball player, so I've naturally grown up watching football or basketball. Sorry, Wes just talked about with soccer that there's not any one fan that or a person that you don't really despise. Whereas in basketball, a person could completely hate a team because of just one player, because he's good. It's like LeBron James. You're either a LeBron James fan or you're not. There's no like Cleveland. No, if you hate Cleveland, it's because you don't like LeBron James.
I guess there are players that I don't like more than others, but since the United States is out of it,
now the truth comes out. There are players.
There are some players. See. I mean, at the same time, I don't know. I just like watching the World Cup. It's just an amazing sport. So watching those guys compete is crazy.
Wes, not too long ago, got engaged, looking to get married.
Yep.
Big exciting things.
It's definitely
husband life.
Takes you from one step of life to the next step of life, and makes you think a little bit about.
One step to the next step. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, we're about to be. I don't know. You kind of everything gets solidified a little bit. We're about to get married, so you want to be in shape. Now you start to think about fitness a little bit more. You start to think about your diet a little bit more. You start to think about making sure that your long-term health is good, that your partner's long-term health is good. So you just take that little bit next step to start preparing for the long term of life versus just the here and now. I think that's probably the biggest change.
So again, guys, we're going to dive here into the questions. We wanted to get a chance to connect with you, figure out what's going on. So again, submit your questions to the links. You guys can ask them at any time throughout the week, and we'll do our best to connect and find out what it is you want to know. Nothing is off limits. Wes and I are going to do our best to try to give you our perspectives and really figure out what it is that we can do to offer some substantial strategy and information towards the things that you want to do. So, by the way, we're going to, for this show, keep all of the questions that we have anonymous.
For the first question, how can I determine what my most important values are? And how would you identify those values in yourself and with other people?
So I think the important part here is to identify and really make clear what values are. Values are a set of governing rules that we as humans choose to live by. Very similar to the way that we talk about principles, right? So values are our governing body. It really influences why we choose to do something or why we don't choose to do something, who we choose to affiliate or disaffiliate with. And so those are a set of rules, kind of a hierarchy that you choose to live by, and everything you do is almost weighed and valued against those, and it kind of goes against the personal code of conduct. I think they really come from experience. I think we all have something as humans called intuition, and what ends up happening is that we'll get a gut feeling. You've probably heard that before, gut feeling, and that gut feeling is going to tell you, is this something that you want to do? And do you identify with this? Meaning that if I'm asked to go do something and I feel like I'm conflicted with that, it's probably because it goes against some kind of moral compass that I have that stands for a value. So therefore, I would refer back to my value. My value would say no, and then it would be up to me to be able to cut out that action.
I agree. Yeah, I also think just in general, a lot of the way you define your own values is kind of taking a look at the different opportunities you've had and what you've said no and what you've said yes to. You know, a lot of those yeses and nos, I think, help you figure out, you know, where you lay that line, where you draw that line for, you know, what's right and what's wrong in your own mind. You know?
Good one.
Absolutely, that's definitely a good question. Next one. How can I tell when it is okay to slow down and enjoy life? It seems like much of life is spent pursuing goals and the next step. When is it okay to stop and smell the roses? How do I know when it's time to start working again?
Something that might be right for person A might be completely different right for person B. What kind of time trial are you in? If you're in a position where you're trying to hustle for something and you're trying to see a change in your life, it could be in your health, it could be in your relationship, it could be in your finances, it could be with trying to change yourself around, then I think you're not supposed to be in a comfortable state, because what you're basically inferring is that you're trying to go from point A to point B, which requires growth.
I think, you know, kind of working off that as well, talking about working harder, you know, during different periods of your life and finding other different, other periods to kind of rest. You know, with the wedding coming up here in about a year, you know, this is my go time. This is the time where I got to buckle down and kind of push myself a little bit harder than I typically would, I think, to become a healthier person, a more fit person. You know, and after the wedding, I don't want to necessarily drop off, but there probably is going to be a time or a few weeks there where I really let loose and enjoy myself. And you know, I think, you know, you hit home, I think, with the idea that it's going to depend on what your current state in life is, what you're trying to do, if you're trying to accomplish things or if you're trying to take it easy. So,
how do I overcome a plateau or weight loss? This is actually
how do I overcome a plateau or weight loss?
This is a common, very common, very frequently asked question. I've had a chance to deal with people who want to drop body fat, want to be able to lose weight, and so the funniest thing that I end up seeing, and the major issue that I see with people when it comes to plateaus or weight loss, is that they don't have a definitive goal. They know they want to lose weight, they know that they're hitting a plateau or that they're going through the motions and they're comfortable, but they couldn't actually tell me or tell themselves exactly what it is that they want. Again, it doesn't really serve us now, and so what I would recommend is that you need to get clear. You really need to find out exactly what it is that you want, and then the second biggest thing that you have to do is you have to create some emotional incentive, or you have to create some emotional leverage on why that's important. You know, a lot of people want $1 million. I think a lot of people want good bodies, but they have no reason why that's important. They go out and then they are the one out of shape at the beach party, and so in that moment they feel it, but when they go home, you're back in the comfort zone of your circle, and there's no demand. So you gotta really have an emotional connection, why you're willing to go out there and make sacrifices, endure, and go through pain. Because if you don't, I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to take the shortcuts and you're going to find, you know, what's the easy answer, which is not long-term or self-serving, and eventually you're going to find yourself at a plateau or without the weight loss that you want.
I think that some people also run into these situations where their life presents these reasons to want to be healthy. Like, there are people who lose relatives, and they lose relatives due to health problems, and then that's the trigger. That's like, man, if my dad passed away young because of this, then I've really got to step up the plate and make sure that doesn't happen to me. And you never want it to be those kind of situations. I think the people out there that don't have life telling them why they need to be healthy, those are the people that struggle the most, because they don't really have life, you know, challenging them in such a way or showing them why they need to be healthy. How do I overcome depression?
How do I overcome
Just
depression?
straight up, how do I overcome depression?
You know, guys, there's a, you know, this is going to be a bold statement. There is some science behind this, and so I'm just going to go out there and put what I would do if I'm in the most depressed state. What we know about depression is that is some components to physical activity. We also know that depression can be a genetic predisposition. Some people are more likely to become depressed over times of their life. And then we also know that a lot of it has to do with emotional and psychological anguish, basically how we cope as people. And so what I'm going to end up saying is not how do you avoid depression, because I think eventually all of us are going to at one point in time suffer through some depression. I think the secret is being transparent with yourself and first admitting that you are depressed, and then making the decision. And I do mean this literally, making the decision to not be depressed. And I don't think in that moment you snap out of being depressed, but I think the difference is you have to admit that you're depressed, and you have to say, I don't want to stay here, because a lot of people are depressed and it's inconvenient, but they might get attention, or they're getting significance, or they're getting a way out, and they don't want change. They can say, how could you say that? And the reality is it's true. So if you think about the neurotransmitter serotonin is responsible for sleep, mood, sexual drive, even appetite. So you guys have probably heard me talk about that before. What's funny is that primary release of serotonin actually happens here in the gut, or what we call the second brain. And that's impacted by the microbiome, by what you eat.
So to summarize what Nick said, it's about getting active, finding something that you like to go out and do, or stay in and do. I think it's definitely about putting good food in you and just good nutrients in you. It's crazy how much better I feel when I have 3 or 4 days straight of healthy food versus even just having a pizza here or a burger there. It really does tear you down a little bit. And I think just finding some short-term and long-term goals, so that when you succeed, you can start to kind of celebrate your own success one step at a time. If you can't put great people around you, listening to great people eventually until you meet those great people. And I think that's definitely a big part of it too.
Yep. Again, guys, links here listed below. At any time throughout the week, if you guys have questions, submit them to myself, Nick, Wes. We're more than happy to figure out how we're going to plug them into the show.
So it's hot as hell. We understand that.
Hot, sweaty.
I mean, right now I'm looking at my watch and it's like 80 to 90 degrees.
Just now noon too.
We want to know, and we want you guys to share with us some of your most intensely hot moments. The moments where you almost died because it was hot. The moments where you worked out in the heat, you didn't have any water, or you sat in the hot tub too long, or you just did something you shouldn't have done.
Make sure whatever you guys do, hashtag heat stroke. That's hashtag heat stroke. And look forward to seeing some of your moments and hearing what you guys did.
Awesome.